All right, man, peace. So, world famous actor Johnny Depp recently got himself into a bit of trouble for some inflammatory statements and some threatening statements that he made about the President of the United States, Donald Trump. Of course, the morning news is going to report it. They're not going to give any reasoning behind the statements that he made. But of course, I'm going to chime in. Let's see what they have to say.
Johnny Depp is causing controversy this morning for comments he made about assassinating President Trump.
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president? I want to clarify, I'm not an actor. I lie for a living.
Now, I wonder what he meant by that. He said, I'm not an actor, I lie for a living. Now, he made a statement. He said, when is the last time that an actor assassinated a president? Now, if we want to go literal, or at least according to conventional history, we'd say John Wilkes Booth. Right? For those of you who don't know, John Wilkes Booth was not only an actor. I'm talking about the man who's credited with assassinating Abraham Lincoln. He wasn't just an actor. He was the preeminent actor of his day. All right. That was a huge story when that happened, when he assassinated Abraham Lincoln. All right. So John Wilkes Booth, as I've already covered, he was an agent of the Knights of the Golden Circle, and he was working with the international banking families to get rid of Mr. Abraham Lincoln so that they could bring in a national bank. All right. He was just being used from the standpoint that they wanted to bring in to have self-rulership amongst the southern states. They wanted to all secede and each become their own republic. At least that was the story that was sold to them by the international banks. All right, so they established something called the Knights of the Golden Circle, with such notable figures as Jesse James, Frank James, and their father. Their father, by the way, is the man who let off the first shot at Fort Sumter. But anyway, getting back to Johnny Depp's statement, he said, I'm not an actor. I tell lies. I lie for a living. So what really is he trying to say? Who is he saying are the real actors? Is he saying that the men who have assassinated different presidents over the years were acting and that they were not under their own control? Or what really is he going into? Either way, the statement that he made is something that should be taken seriously. Why do I say that? Because Johnny Depp is not in control of his own faculties. He also is a MK asset. All right. If you see Johnny Depp, he has the tattoo of the bluebird on his arm. All right. After the MK Ultra program, or the mind control program, was initiated in America, started by the OSS, the forerunner of the CIA. At first, it was known as Project Chatter, and then it became known as Project Bluebird. And you'll notice that a lot of MK assets, especially in Hollywood, they have the bluebird tattoo somewhere on their body. Johnny Depp is one of them. Another way that I know that he is an MK asset is that his main handler is a very famous director named Tim Burton. Tim Burton has directed him in many films. He directed him in Edward Scissorhands. He directed him in the Alice in Wonderland story. A few other ones. The Demon Barber story, I believe Tim Burton also directed him in. I believe he also directed him in that Headless Horseman story. Yeah, Sleepy Hollow. He's directed him in a lot of films. Why is that? Because Tim Burton is a very, very, very high-level Luciferian, high-level Mason in Hollywood. Johnny Depp is an MK asset, and it should be taken. Any threat made by an MK asset should be taken seriously. As this story is going to note, they are taking it seriously because the government knows that many of these actors are under the programming, and that they could snap into an altar at any moment, an assassination altar. All right. So it has to be taken very, very seriously. Now, in regards to Johnny Depp and Tim Burton, they went to the Obamas. They went to the White House while the Obamas were in office and had a private costume party with the Obamas and their daughters, in which they dressed up as characters from the Alice in Wonderland movie. Now, please understand that one of the main sub-programs in the MK Ultra program is the Wizard of Oz program, as well as the Alice in Wonderland program. Now, Alice in Wonderland, for those of you who don't know, was written, I believe I've covered this before, was written by a man named Lewis Carroll. Lewis Carroll was an Englishman, or I believe Irishman, pardon me, who lived during the 19th century, and he was infatuated with young girls. He used to like to take pictures, naked pictures of children, especially young women. There was a young girl about 11 years old named Alice Bailey that he had an extreme infatuation with, that allegedly he wanted to marry. All right, and she is the inspiration for the Alice in Wonderland story. All right, you guys can look that up. He has a photo of her when she was a very young girl, where she has half her chest exposed. Of course, she has not developed yet, but he still has that. He still has that photo. That photo is up on the internet. You could look that up. Her name was Alice Bailey, a very, very young 11-year-old girl. Lewis Carroll also was a member of the Theosophists. I've mentioned them before. The Theosophists were into what was known as Hermetic philosophy, which was a lot of the occult ritualism of what they called back then the Orient, meaning the East, right? Their leader was known as Madame Blavatsky. She would travel the world, Tibet, Nepal, India, and try to learn the ways of those spiritual systems. Why? Because those spiritual systems are the closest direct representations of the Babylonian mystery school system. All right, you still have it alive today in the Catholic Church, but the Catholic Church has masked a lot of the practices of the Babylonian mystery school system. They hide it. They do a lot of things underground, while the most of the Indian and Nepalese and the Tibetan sages, they still practice a lot of the Babylonian rituals almost directly from the ancient world. So that's why she traveled abroad to learn that. Miss Madame Blavatsky, she was the top witch of her day, and she taught Aleister Crowley, and she also, her organization, the Theosophists, they taught people like Mahatma Gandhi, Jiddu Krishnamurti, Lewis Carroll, Frank Baum. Frank Baum wrote The Wizard of Oz. All right. So this Lewis Carroll also was portrayed by Johnny Depp in a movie. Johnny Depp also portrayed a man named Hunter Thompson. For those of you who don't know, Hunter Thompson was a famous writer. He was formerly in the Air Force. And Hunter Thompson also was a mind control victim through the Air Force. That's where he was put under the programming. And he was involved with the filming of child pornography and snuff films. All right. He was directly involved in something called the Franklin Cover-Up, which was a child pedophile ring that was centered in Nebraska, but whose tentacles reached all the way up to the White House. All right, you can read about that. You can read about that in a book called The Franklin Cover-Up. Now, when Hunter S. Thompson got exposed for being involved in that situation, he killed himself. This was back in 2005, all right? Johnny Depp portrayed him. Johnny Depp portrayed Lewis Carroll. Johnny Depp portrayed a lot of bugged out characters. Johnny Depp is under the programming. Any threat made by him should be taken seriously. All right. He also was involved in that situation with his wife, or ex-wife, I believe, Amber Heard, who was just some MK sex kitten who was sent to him to trigger a self-destruct program. That's why he spazzed out. All right. A lot of these people, you can't really tell if they're under the programming until they start to self-destruct. I mean, that's if you have an untrained eye. If you have a trained eye, then you see certain tattoos that are put on them. Certain tattoos that are put on them by their owners or by their sponsors to keep them under control. It's almost like people who put a chip inside of a dog or a cat. Like I said in the video about Glenn Burke, where I mentioned Steve Garvey, they have sponsors. Sponsors are owners. These people are owned. All right. Johnny Depp is sponsored by Tim Burton. All right. They'll use terms like muse. That's why you'll see a guy like Leonardo DiCaprio always in movies by, what's this guy named? Scorsese. All right. He's owned. Leonardo DiCaprio, by the way, him and Tobey Maguire, they came up through a pedophile child agent whose name is skipping me right now. I can't remember his name, but that's how they got into the industry. The whole industry, brothers, is about the worship of Pan. It's about pedophilia. All right. But you can look a lot of that stuff up for yourself. You can look up Hunter S. Thompson and find out about his association with the Franklin conspiracy, the child sex trafficking ring, the snuff films. He filmed a lot of little boys being forced to have sex with each other, being forced to have sex with men, being forced to have sex with corpses. All right? These things that you can look up. But anyway, let's get back to this video.
However, it's been a while. Maybe it's time.
That's inappropriate. Depp may have been joking yesterday at an arts festival in England, but the secret...
You see that bluebird tattooed on his hand? All right. He has another bluebird tattooed also on his right arm, I believe it is. Johnny Depp is an asset.
Secret Service did take note, and they tell us they are aware of the comment.
We're talking about the golf cart stand. I think it's just never funny to talk about assassinating a president. I don't care who you are or what you do.
Yeah, not funny.
Now, did you hear what she said? She said the Secret Service did take note, and they're taking it very seriously. Why is that? Because they keep a file on all these people. They know that Johnny Depp is a programmed MK asset. They know what he's capable of if he flashes into a certain persona. All right? It just is what it is. But anyway, peace.